Welcome everyone to another edition of Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross. Beautiful week of tennis in Monte Carlo. Incredible display of tennis by Rafael Nadal in particular. He now has the most Masters 1000s out of anyone. He won his 11th Monte Carlo title. We're going to get into his final with Nishikori. I'm also going to talk about Djokovic. And then at the end, you don't want to miss this. I'm sure that there's a lot of passionate opinions about this one. At the end, I'm going to talk about my top 5 favorite tennis venues spurned on by my affection for the landscape that is the Monte Carlo Tennis Masters and how beautiful that tournament is. So I decided, let's rank them, top 5. So that's at the end. You don't want to miss that. As I said, I'm going to start with the Nadal and Nishikori final. And with Nadal, I feel like you run a risk of being a little bit boring with how dominant he is. And I'm saying me as someone who is supposed to talk to you guys about tennis. You run the risk with Nadal of being boring because, you know, just to say he's dominant, he's incredible, he's amazing, he's unstoppable, it's quite boring. So what I'm going to try to do for the rest of the clay court season in this video and moving on is I will always try to focus on something different that Nadal does really well every time. I will do the best I can to never talk about the same thing twice. So 2 weeks ago on Monday Match Analysis, we talked about Nadal and Zverev in a Davis Cup match, and I talked about Nadal's court position and how he has such a great feel for court position. Today, I want to highlight how well he's hitting his backhand, but I also want to talk about Nishikori and how, you know, I think that he showed off, you know, some very impressive skills in this match. I thought Nishikori played well, and it was obviously a huge tournament for Kei Nishikori, who you kind of forget about because he's just often, you know, unable to stay healthy and stay on the court recently. But Nishikori's a guy who, I don't know about you, I kind of forgot about for a little while there, and I shouldn't have. So let's get into this match. I'm going to start by saying what I felt Nishikori did so well, what I was so impressed by, was how many backhands he made Nadal hit. So it may be obvious, you know, to say you obviously want to make Nadal hit as more backhands than forehands, not just because his forehand is one of the biggest weapons in tennis, but the reason for that is if Nadal drops a forehand short, it's so heavy that it often doesn't matter. It's still unattackable. In fact, Nadal does drop a lot of forehands short. It usually doesn't matter because there's so much topspin, so much kick, and usually a lot of pace. It's still hard to attack Nadal's forehand. But if Nadal drops a backhand short, you actually have a chance to do some damage. So I felt that Nishikori was able to make Nadal hit a lot of backhands, and that's a really, really good thing because you can be patient, you can wait for your short ball as long as you continue to make Nadal hit backhands, and once you get that short ball, you can get on the attack. It's so much easier to say than to do. It's so hard to make Nadal hit backhands, especially on clay, but Nishikori did a great job of it. So let's go to the footage. I got to rewind here, okay. There's our beautiful graphic, Rafa Nadal looking at his box, elated that he won Monte Carlo. Here we go. So we're going to start with this Nadal backhand, okay? Nadal hits a backhand cross court. Nishikori, look where Nadal is on the court here. Nishikori does a really good job of hitting heavy enough forehands to get Nadal, heavy enough and well placed enough to get Nadal to continue to hit backhand. So this is the second backhand in a row. Gets Nishikori on the run. Nishikori hits a strong ball. Third backhand in a row. On the run again, but Nishikori once again, hard cross court, gets it to Nadal's backhand for a fourth time. Now this time Nadal actually steps into the court, and Nadal's going to hit it cross court one more time. It's the fourth backhand in the row, and he drops it short. Where you should be looking, I know sometimes it's hard to see the ball in this. Look towards where the service line is. That's where the ball has dropped here. So Nishikori is once again ranging to his right, but you're going to see on this ball, he's going to have enough time to really plant his right leg hard into the court, have good balance, and really kind of set himself for this running forehand. And another thing is, you saw Nadal step into the court on that last backhand. he's sort of in a compromised position here. Because he stepped into the court and didn't hit a strong ball, he's not in as good a position to defend. He's a little bit too far in. Nishikori recognized that. He finally gets his short ball, and he drills it down the line. It is an outright winner. Nadal can do nothing. So what we saw here is the most popular pattern in tennis. It's if you turn on a tennis match, you're mostly going to see this. Now, obviously things vary, but what this was a drill, a game of cross courts and lines. It's probably the best drill in tennis, best live ball drill in tennis. Nishikori, cross court, cross court, cross court, cross court, waits for the short ball, goes down the line. It's the most simple pattern in tennis. You see it all the time. The way it can be converted into a drill is you have one player only allowed to hit it cross court, literally not allowed to go down the line, or they lose. The other player gets the option, cross court or down the line. So the idea is that the player who has the ability to hit it down the line should always win, as long as they're patient and they have good shot selection and they're conscious of choosing their spots of when to go down the line. They should win. But what it does is it trains you to be patient and recognize short balls and to trade cross court for as long as you can, or as long as you should, really, is the proper way to put it. To be able to recognize short balls, recognize when to change direction, and go down the line. So Nishikori, in that rally, did a really great job of making Nadal hit backhands. Nadal actually hit more backhands from the deuce side than run-around forehands, and that's not always the case with Nadal, especially on clay. So Nishikori just did a really good job. However, Nadal's backhand was really, really good in this match. That's why it didn't matter. That's why Nadal won this match fairly easily. It's mostly due to, the reason why Nishikori couldn't really dig into this, one of the main reasons is that his strategy of getting it to Nadal's backhand, while it is the correct strategy, it wasn't overly effective because of the effectiveness of Nadal's backhand. I don't know if I said this earlier, but I felt that Nadal, at times, was so confident with his backhand that he opted not to run around the forehand, opted not to exert the extra energy and to put himself out of position and hit the forehand. He just decided to go with the backhand at times. Also, what I want to highlight is Nishikori's ability to get it to Nadal's backhand, because it's far above average. And the reason for that is Nishikori has good enough timing to do two things. One, take the ball on the rise, and two, redirect the ball. Sometimes he's able to do both at the same time, and it's the hardest thing to do in tennis. It's the hardest shot to hit in tennis, especially on someone's backhand. In the case of Nishikori, it's better to do it on his backhand. But to take the ball on the rise and redirect it down the line at the same time is really hard to do, but it's necessary against Nadal if you want to get it to his backhand. Because Nadal's forehand has so much kick, especially as a shorter player, if you don't take it on the rise, you're absolutely screwed. You're going to be pushed back so far behind the court, and really no one has the strength to deal with that except like Stan Wawrinka and to a certain extent Dominic Theim. So Nishikori did a really good job of taking the ball on the rise, and he always does a really good job of redirecting that backhand down the line. It's his best shot. So let's take a look at the footage. You see Nadal is on the run here, and he's going to hit a high looping ball cross court, defensive shot. And look where this ball lands. Incredible depth by Nadal. And obviously he put a lot of spin on this shot as well. So Nishikori's really going to have to pick it up off the baseline. But he does an incredible job here of redirecting it and making Nadal hit a backhand. That is so impressive. To take the ball pretty much as a half volley. And not only to do that, but to redirect it and make Nadal hit a backhand, incredibly impressive. Here's the problem. Nadal drills this backhand. Look where it lands, about 6 inches in front of the baseline, and he hit it with a lot of pace. I don't even remember who won that point. It's not important. But the depth on Nadal's backhand was generally really, really good. I know I showed you a point where he dropped one short, but for the most part, great backhand depth. and Nadal won that match in straight sets. 6-3, 6-2, I want to say. I hope I got the score right. But because I don't think I looked at it since yesterday. But that's the deal with that. I'll move on to Djokovic now. Djokovic, basically what I've been saying is it's going to be baby steps for Novak Djokovic, and he needs to start beating the players that he should beat before he starts beating the players that he used to beat. And he did that in this tournament. He finally did that in this tournament. He won every match he was supposed to win, and at the end, he just couldn't beat Dominic Theim. In the team match, I felt his defense was the best I've seen it in a really long time. I thought that the backhand still, still falters more often than it ever used to falter when it comes to unforced errors, and I'm not really sure what the reason for that is. But ultimately, Djokovic played really well in this tournament and played pretty well against Dominic Theim. In the third set, Theim played with way more energy than Novak. There was a clear difference in the juice in Thiem's legs compared to the juice in Novak's legs, and the overall urgency and energy in the explosiveness of the movement of the two players. Thiem really had Novak beat there, and it's the equivalent of, like, outworking a player. I think Theim outworked Djokovic, but, I don't want that to be misinterpreted into me saying that Novak wasn't competing as hard as Dominic Theim. I just think Dom had more in the tank, and Novak did get worn down. Novak needs more match play. He needs to get used to long matches. He needs to get used to going deep in tournaments. That's going to come, and that's why he's going to play a 250 next week. It's either going to be Barcelona or I forget the other one. But what is it? I forget. No, I don't know. I forget. So Djokovic is going to play a 250s event because he just needs to get more match play, and then the stamina will come with more match play. But I thought the biggest difference in the third set was energy. Theim moved on to the quarterfinals, the quarterfinals where he played Nadal, and Nadal absolutely smoked him. And granted, Nadal said he played the best match of his life, or one of the best matches of his life. But last week I said we may be overstating Dominic Thiem's ability to challenge Rafa Nadal on clay, and for me that confirmed this. So I think we need to reset our expectations and understand that Dominic Thiem at this time cannot legitimately challenge Rafa Nadal on clay. Maybe that'll come in the next couple years, but right now, and I know Thiem beat him last year on clay, which kind of shot the hype train up to another level. But once again, we need to remember that Thiem didn't have a chance in that Roland Garros semifinal match, and we need to once again take a look at what happened in Monte Carlo here. Dominic Thiem had no chance whatsoever against Rafa Nadal, and at the moment, no one has a chance against Rafa Nadal. I do want to reiterate that the guy I want to see play Nadal is Juan Martín del Potro. There is no one in better form, or there was no one in better form over the hardcourt season than Juan Martín del Potro. So that's the match I want to see. That's the guy I want to see play Nadal and challenge Nadal, not necessarily Dominic Thiem right now. Nadal should be the heavy favorite in that with the way he's playing. I think that it's fair to say the distance between Nadal and the field is possibly larger than it ever has been. And I think that's due to Nadal probably playing the best offensive clay court tennis we've seen. By the way, I said that last year. I'll say it again this year, that I don't think he's ever been so prolific offensively on the dirt. And then I also think that has something to do with the rest of the tour. And Dominic Thiem is not on the level that Djokovic once was, and that Murray once was, and Federer once was when it comes to challenging Nadal on clay. He's not quite there. We'll see what Del Potro can offer. It's hard to say. And then Stan turned into a really good clay court player. He's also out of the picture. We'll see what a guy like Nishikori does. A guy like Cilic isn't really well suited for clay. A guy like Dimitrov isn't really that well suited for clay. So I think that the distance between Nadal and the field is larger than it ever has been. I'm curious to see if you guys agree with that. I just mentioned two guys, by the way, Dimitrov and Cilic. They both made the quarterfinals. And then in the case of one of them, Cilic or Dimitrov, one of them made the semifinals. Dimitrov made the semifinals. So in last week's episode, I said I'm wondering if they can kind of emerge here. And in this week, they had good tournaments. So that's encouraging. So I just want to get that off my back. And then I think it's time to go over these venues. So Monte Carlo is super beautiful. It kind of led me into wanting to rank these venues, and we have 5 more minutes until the 20-minute mark, which is a length that I've kind of enjoyed here. So I'm going to start with number 1. The number 1 most beautiful venue in tennis. It's center court at Wimbledon. I don't know what to tell you guys. The prestige of center court at Wimbledon, the tradition, the way that the uniqueness, how they don't play music at the changeovers, how the crowd is so quiet and so consistent in the way that they cheer. That's something that's kind of special about Wimbledon. And I don't know, the cleanliness of the court, the beauty of a grass court in general. So I think Wimbledon's number 1. And I don't think there's going to be that much disagreement on that one. Number 2, another major, Arthur Ashe Stadium, particularly at night. There's a certain electricity. It's the opposite of Wimbledon. It's the opposite of center court at Wimbledon. There's noise, there's buzz, there's electricity, there's a certain energy. There's loud music at the changeovers. There's, the way that the court is lit up, and then, honestly, how did I not mention this? It's the biggest venue in tennis. The mammoth cathedral that is Arthur Ashe Stadium is so cool, and I'm obviously biased to that because that's the court that I'm at every year watching tennis without fail. The court that I've kind of grown up with is Arthur Ashe, and I think especially at night there's something special there. All right, number 3, the tournament we just witnessed, Monte Carlo. Right now you're looking at the waterfront, which is obviously very beautiful. You have cruise ships in the background. You have grassy green on the left. And then behind the court, you can't see it in this photograph, but there's this rocky landscape that goes over the court, and beautiful homes, and the geography, the geology even, I should say. I think it's geology. Is geology the study of rocks and the study of landscapes? I think it is. The geology of Monte Carlo is second to none. So that's number 3. Number 4 is, in my opinion, the best indoor venue. And that is the O2 Arena in London, England. The blue hue, the lit up courts, and the dark crowd is something else. A truly iconic, unique venue in London, England. Of course, that is the host of the year-end championships. And then this 5th one was tough for me. I didn't really know what to choose. I had no clear choice in my mind. I was juggling things in my mind. So I decided what I wanted to do for this 5th one was I wanted to give a tournament that doesn't get a lot of shine, a 250 event. I wanted to give someone something that shine, the most underrated venue in all of tennis. And I went with Valencia, Spain. There it is, folks. Look at that architecture. It is so unique. It is so gorgeous. It is the hometown of David Ferrer, which gives it bonus points for me at least. There you have it. Valencia, Spain, a 250 event. So what I want you guys to do, what I want everyone to do, is I want you to put your top 5 favorite venues in all of tennis in the comment section. Let's see, what are some other things we talk about? Nadal dominance. Do you agree with what I said? Is this the biggest distance between Nadal and the field? And how encouraging was this for Djokovic? Did any of you change your mind? Any of you who are saying Djokovic will never get back to the top, did Monte Carlo change any of your minds? Because this was the baby steps that I've been talking about for a really long time now. We saw this for Novak Djokovic. So all that and more, looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.